Do you know what? Sometimes being right's an absolute bitch. Back in March 2016, I made a video about the Hitman game that was forthcoming at that time. And I talked about why I didn't like the way in which it was being released. And that was episodic. In effect, what they were doing is they were making the first mission available, or the first episode available. And you could actually, I think, download that for free. And then you could buy subsequent episodes. But you could also pay up front. And there was even a collector's edition that you could buy that was about £100. And you wouldn't actually get the game in it. What you would get would be the first mission, and then you would get the other missions as they were released. And I said at the time that I thought that that was going to be a problem moving forward, because sooner or later we would get a situation where a company was going to go bust before they finished releasing the game. And I hate to say it, but I told you so, because recently, this last few days, we've now heard that Telltale Games have, in effect, gone bust. They've laid off something like 225 staff and just remain with a skeleton crew of, I think it's 25 people left to, I don't know, maybe wind down the company. I have no idea. But so we're left in a situation where Telltale Games had games that they were putting out that were episodic, and now they're gone. Specifically, we're talking about the final season of The Walking Dead, which has only had its first episode. And it looks like, I think today we're due the second episode, but I don't think we're going to be getting any more after that. I'm not even sure if we're actually going to get the second episode. And people who have paid up front for that game have paid £18.99 up front. And, you know, this game is actually still, as I'm recording this, available on Steam for £18.99. So people have paid £18.99 for this game, and now they're never going to see it. And as I said in my Hitman video, you know, I knew this was going to happen. Sooner or later, we were going to get a situation with one of these episodic games where people were going to be paying for it, and then they were going to get bit on the arse because the company in the interim was going to go bust, and we're going to be in a situation where they were going to be unable to finish putting out the game. And this seems increasingly like a problem that we're encountering in modern gaming. We've got this episodic content, which I warned about, and we've got early access. And how many early access games are actually finishing? I think I saw some stats on that. And the number of early access games that have actually come to completion is pretty small. I think it's something like 30%, I seem to remember. If anyone knows the actual figure for that, put it in the comments and we can discuss that. But, you know, this is it's like Kickstarter and some of these other things that have started up where you can put money up front in the hope of getting something at the end of it. And, you know, you know, people are putting money into these things and they're risking their hard-earned cash, and they may not be seeing a return. And as I say, I warned about it in my Hitman video. I talked about it then, and I said, sooner or later, this was going to happen. Now, you know, I didn't know that it was going to be Telltale, and I would, you know, sooner it hadn't have been Telltale. But, you know, you don't really want anyone to go bust as a result of these kind of things. You know, Telltale have themselves to blame in some respects. I mean, Jim Sterling's just put out an interesting video about that and how they hadn't really moved forward in the way they presented their games. And so, in effect, people were getting bored with their games. So, you know, there's reasons behind it, but nevertheless, whatever the reasons are, this was an inevitability. It was absolutely inevitable that this was going to happen. And I'm telling you now, this is not going to be the only company this is going to happen to. As we move forward, you're going to find that this is going to happen more and more, because more and more companies are adopting these kind of models. You know, it may not be episodic games specifically, But the early access model is very popular at the moment. Companies are raising money ahead of time and then using that money to develop the game. And you've got two problems there. One, a company can come along and have all the best intentions and want to put out a good game. And they go into it and they do their best, and then things just go wrong and people have put their money in and they're not getting a game back because that company, no matter how good their intentions were, just couldn't deliver. The flip side of that, though, is that you can have people setting up these early access schemes and having no intention of delivering a final product. And we've seen this a few times with various different products, and you know, we can discuss that in the comments. But people are putting their hard-earned money forward and they're taking a risk. And you know, these games aren't cheap. And so at the end of the day, I still feel like I did when I talked about Hitman. It's something that we shouldn't be encouraging. We shouldn't really be putting our money into early access. We shouldn't be putting our money into episodic games. Because, you know, the proof's there now. We've seen time and time again that companies are failing and we're not getting the products that we're putting our money into. It might be a good way of funding these games. It might be a way that we can say, oh, you know, I'm excited about this. Let's put some money in and encourage them. But it's just throwing good money after bad if you're not careful. And Telltale is a lesson. You know, they were very successful for a while. And I feel sorry for those people who've put their money up front and they've lost it. Fortunately, you know, $18.99, it is not a huge amount of money, but it's still money that you've spent that you're not getting what you paid for. So, you know, I don't know what you guys think. You know, what do you make of this? Do you think that Telltale is kind of like a one-off? I mean, I think the evidence shows that it's not. We've seen other companies, maybe not, as I say, with episodic games, but with early access where things just haven't been delivered, or what has been delivered hasn't been what was promised. And, well, you may think it's a risk worth taking, but as somebody who comes from like the old school of gaming where you put your money down and you get your game, and then you play your game, and then when you've finished your game, you move on to another game, I find this way of doing things where you put your money up front in the hope of getting something, well, it's a little bit bizarre. And I, for one, I don't like these models. And as I say, it may be a good way of raising capital to make games. But the gamers aren't the ones who have the money. You know, there's companies out there that can afford to fund games. And if you look at what's happening with Sony and, you know, Shenmue 3, that went to Kickstarter. Now, you know, why does somebody like Sony need to put a game onto Kickstarter? Okay, I know it's not directly Sony doing it, but they had it up on stage. They were encouraging people to put money into it. Hopefully, we will see the game. I think it's on track. But you never know. You know, people could be putting money into Kickstarter, and the fact that it's Shenmue, you know, Shenmue, they're putting a lot of money in. You don't know, and I think we'll see Shenmue. I think the re-release of Shenmue 1 and 2 has gone quite well, so I think people want to see these games, and hopefully the money will go in. But that's just an example of how people are excited about something, and so they're encouraged to put their money in. And you know, it's not guaranteed. It's a risk. It's a gamble. And you know, what with loot boxes and all the rest of it, we're increasingly seeing that people are being encouraged to gamble in one way or another within the gaming industry. We as customers, it seems, are the ones who the industry wants to take the risks. You know, the industry is pretty much risk averse. They don't want to put their own money into these things. They want us to put our money in, for us to take the risk and for us to get a game at the end of it. But they still put in things like loot boxes and all these things into their games. And so we take the risk up front and then we pay through the nose later on, and we just keep paying money. so we can lose money before we even get the game, and we can pay good money after bad once we've got the game. So all the way along the line, it seems that the onus is on the gamer, the customer, to take the risk. And as far as I'm concerned, as I say, I don't think that's how it should work. But you guys may think differently to me. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about the demise of Telltale? Do you think it was inevitable? Does it sadden you? I mean, it certainly saddens me. I was not a huge fan of those quick time event style games, the QTE, click and something happens type games. But, some people were. And even though they'd gone downhill a little bit in recent years, I still think that there should have been a place for those kind of games. And so, yeah, I am a little bit sad to see the end of Telltale. But I do think we need to look at this very, very carefully. And the idea of episodic games, the idea of early access games, I really don't think the onus should be on the customer to put the money up front. That's not how business should work as far as I can see it. It just seems a bit crazy to me that we should be the ones who are subsidizing these companies and taking all the risk. I think that, we should get a product at the end of the day and pay for the product. But as I say, you guys may think differently. And if you do, let me know in the comments. And as usual, we'll have a chat about it. And in the meantime, I'm going to go and drown my sorrows with a cup of tea. Not exactly the best way of drowning your sorrows, but it's the middle of the day and I'm not drinking. Certainly not drinking alcohol. Anyway, that's me done. I will speak to you in the next one. It's a bit sad, this, but hey, it is what it is. Bye.